It's the Auburn Observer Podcast. Hello, everyone. A little later than usual. We're recording this later than usual. But we got a lot to talk about. Justin Ferguson here, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck. Dan, the people are hearing good audio quality, which can only mean one thing.
Ahoy, Justin, and we are, in fact, back in the Wings 94.3 studio. Wings 94.3, the classic hit station. Also, your home for Auburn University athletics, football, men's basketball, baseball, Tiger Talk. You can catch all that on Wings 94.3 in the Auburn-Opelika area. And as I mentioned, classic hits. Got some Boston, got some Rolling Stones, got some Def Leppard. So it's always great that we always appreciate that they let us use the studio. A big shout out to our friends at Wings 94.3.
All right, full disclosure, we are recording this on Monday night. It is 10 o'clock on Monday night at the moment we are recording this. All right. Montana State just won the FCS National Championship game. Shout out to our boy Christian Clemente. Full disclosure.
We've both been to Bozeman.
Yeah.
That's not the full disclosure.
Lovely.
Oh, absolutely.
City.
If you ever get the chance.
Yeah, lovely town.
A great dinosaur museum.
Oh, yeah.
Natural history museum.
So most of this podcast is going to be us talking about basketball. We talk about the Georgia game and preview the Texas A&M game. That's going to come up a little bit later. We recorded this podcast kind of backwards for a reason. As we were recording this, we were kind of waiting to see if Auburn was going to get any more news on the transfer front. They did not. Again, it's now after 10 o'clock when we were saying this. By the time this podcast comes out, by the time you listen to this, that may have changed. So just know we're recording this late on Monday night, and we kind of delayed it as far as we could, so we didn't want to be too out of date because Lord knows we've had some bad run-ins with stuff being immediately out of date with our podcast.
We hate when this thing gets stale immediately. There's a reason day-old bread is half price, right? So I mean, we want to keep this thing as fresh as possible, but we only have so much of a say.
Yeah.
In that.
So, but we did want to talk. We're going to talk for a little bit here before we get to the basketball. Like I said, it's going to be the meat of the show. We want to talk about Auburn football and the transfer portal. The portal's been open, starting to roll now with some commitments. Auburn players have announced that they are staying. Some more of those since we had it. So, real quick, let's address the elephant in the room at the beginning. As we are recording this, there is no signing, commitment, anything like that to this point from Byrum Brown. What I can tell you is that at this point on Monday night, Auburn still feels like they're in a good position to make that happen. These things are going to take longer. The timelines are different. It's not like, hey, this is a visit and then you go home and then you commit and sign on. It's different these days, especially with these guys who are coming in and getting enrolled in classes and all that. So everybody's been on Byrum Brown watch all day on Monday. As of right now, it hasn't happened yet. Auburn still feels like it's in a good position. As of right now, Byrum Brown's not expecting to take any more visits. Auburn's going to try to lock it down. You might hear something on Tuesday at this point. Also, I'd like to point out that his number one receiver, USF's number one receiver for Alex Golesh, Byrum Brown, Joel Gordon, that whole gang last year, Cody Burns, Keshaun Singleton is also in the works for Auburn on his visit. Was told earlier today that they share an agent. So keep that in mind. Remember, we were talking about contracts, NIL, revenue share, all this stuff. A whole lot different than it used to be. And so I know Auburn fans want to hear that news now, and they want to hear it. Just remember, we are not operating on the same timelines as usual. I know the longer you wait, the more antsy you get. That's just natural. I'm not going to tell you can't feel that way. But I will say, as we're sitting right now, Auburn does feel pretty good. We'll see. We'll leave it at that. Dan, I did want to talk, though, about, I guess, the best way to do this to this point on Monday night, kind of go through position by position to like what Auburn's got so far in terms of people that have announced that they're coming back or people that have committed and signed with Auburn. Real quick, Byrum Brown's the key to get at quarterback. If Auburn ends up signing him as expected, we'll talk a lot about Byrum Brown. I'll have stuff ready for that one.
And we always, briefly on that, like we already thought that. From the moment Auburn hired Alex Golish, the thought was
that was going to be the move.
There's a chance that he could continue coaching Byrum Brown. Byrum Brown has started 32 games for Alex Golish at South Florida, has 1 year of eligibility remaining, had an incredibly successful 2025 season.
One of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Right. So, the thought that if he wanted to, for Byrum Brown, if he wanted to continue playing college football and wanted to make that jump to the SEC, like if he doesn't choose Auburn, then he's learning a new coaching staff. He's learning a new playbook. He's going to have new teammates all around him, unfamiliar.
And again, I would say for Auburn fans who are panicking or maybe a little worried, until you see Byrum Brown is on a visit somewhere else, I think you should feel good about Auburn's chances.
Right, and that was I think that there were the thought of playing for Auburn and having all those familiar elements, like that was something that seemed important even before Auburn started signing USF skill players too. Right,
They signed so many,
and now
that's the other thing too. Is like I don't know if all these dudes are signing up if they don't think your quarterback's going to be the guy that they've been playing with. But real quick, Lachlan Hewlett was a redshirt freshman, backup quarterback guy that they're developing at USF. He's transferring to Auburn, going to continue to work. And that Reese Brush was a USF commitment. He's in there as well. So that's your quarterback room right now. Ashton Daniels is going to Florida State.
Yep.
That is the news that came out on Monday. Deuce Knight's officially in the portal. We'll see where it ends up there. Jackson Arnold, UNLV was a contender for him. I thought that was really, really interesting. All right, running back.
Jackson Arnold as a Dan Mullen quarterback.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think with Jackson, like maybe trying his luck at a level a little bit lower than the SEC.
Makes sense.
And,
Hit a reset button.
Could be great for him.
Running back room. Darrell Robinson in the portal. Not a surprise there. That his one season at Auburn did not go as according to plan. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. He's been this will be his fourth school in 4 years.
The story of his leg injury is nightmarish.
It's still
all the best to Darrell.
Yeah. Really cool kid too. Like we'll be rooting for him wherever he
just had a
up.
Season totally upended, and was dealing with the turf toe, right, and then had that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. We
have
have not heard anything about Jeremiah Cobb. But Auburn's feeling pretty good about a lot of these guys who are still left to hold on to them.
I think the silence from Cobb and, for that matter, Omar.
It's not surprising. It's not surprising, too, No,
but
Jeremiah Cobb would not be a guy that I think would make a big deal about coming back.
No, but I think the fact that you haven't heard portal rumblings from either of those guys would make you think, maybe Auburn's got a couple of pieces that could be important in 2026 and maybe even beyond 2026. Sticking around in the running back room on top of whatever they're bringing in. But no, Cobb would be, I'll be honest, retaining Jeremiah Cobb would be impressive because a lot of the guys that fit Jeremiah Cobb's profile have left. When you think about guys that have shown themselves to be starters, high-level starters. If Jeremiah Cobb went into the portal, what would his market be? I think really good teams could be interested in adding Jeremiah Cobb.
That guy who ran for nearly 1,000 yards in the SEC? Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the guys we've talked about that way, especially guys that spent more than 1 year at Auburn, have left.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of those guys are that's Cam Coleman. That's Malcolm. That's both of the corners. That's Malik Blockton. That's Woodyard. Right? Like these are that's so. And if you could pitch Jeremiah Cobb a version of this where he wants to stick around, that feels like it's a retention that sort of bucks the trend as far as your most veteran players and the decision they're deciding to make in the transfer portal, on top of what Jeremiah Cobb could mean as a piece for your offense in 2026.
Mabson, Alvin Henderson, still, no words on those guys, but they did add Nykahi Davenport. He was the top running back at USF last season. He ran for 98 times for 612 yards, 6.24 yards carry, 7 touchdowns. Our buddy AU Nerd, when he did the write up on him in the big board, he said when he wrote it, Davenport wasn't in the portal yet. He said, but that's the guy you want to go get out of USF. Top 50 running back on PFF this season. Really, really good player. 6 foot, listed at 216, originally from Roswell, Georgia. Good size, big play type of running back. great fit. They want to rotate those guys. I think that's a really good pairing with him, and we'll see. There'll be Auburn's in for some other guys as well at running back. Wouldn't be surprised they add another one. Wide receiver, as we said, still looking about Keshaun Singleton, who was the leading receiver for USF this season. His number 2 receiver. This one was kind of a surprise because Jeremiah Coger, 6'3", freshman this season, was their number 2 guy at USF. I really like him. 38 catches, 597 yards, 8 touchdowns. He did not have quite the same amount of buzz as some of these other guys did with Auburn when it first went in. And then it kind of out of nowhere, it was like, hey, I'm coming to Auburn. Or I guess relatively out of nowhere coming to Auburn.
I think it's important, too. I know you sort of alluded to this earlier. With Singleton, like you haven't heard as much buzz lately about Singleton and Auburn, but the fact is, like, you haven't heard buzz about Singleton in any school. Like when you're searching around.
Well, I mean, Singleton's on a visit at Auburn.
Right. And you haven't heard the buzz like
yes,
with any other sort of So I would say with Singleton, like you
feel good.
Yeah,
you feel good. I really like Coger a lot. Been watching a lot of USF tape. He's big and fast, and got that Cam Coleman double move on the outside. I tweeted a link to that. Just really like his game, and he's got 3 years of eligibility left. Like that's a good 6'3", runs really well. A lot of football ahead of him. Big time pickup there. They also got Christian Neptune, who was their number 5 receiver this year, but tied for second in catches on the team. 5'11". Originally, Dan, do you know where Christian Neptune's originally from?
Is he the one from Cantonment?
Yep.
Yeah, baby.
Pensacola Catholic.
Yeah.
So 38 catches, 335, and a touchdown. Slot guy, 5'11". Another guy with a lot of football ahead of him. Fun little player.
So about the I'm not
also one more
real quick.
One more Corey Pettigrew got redshirted this season. Had a few catches in some games. So that's 3 really young receivers. Auburn's still after Singleton and Chaz Nimrod.
Yeah, not overly concerned about how strong the UCF how strong the USF influence is with the wide receiver room, right? Because I think
it's proven.
It's proven. They know the system, and I think there's also the chance that they could have chemistry with the guy playing quarterback if you indeed land Byrum Brown
and the wide receiver coach and your offensive coordinator and your head coach.
And I would say 2 things briefly on wide receiver. One, speaking of guys you have not heard from yet, you did hear from Bryce Kane.
Yeah,
who
how
decided
about that?
He's coming back. I like that, and that's a guy. Nathan made this point on Twitter that's a guy that we would watch in the viewing windows and consistently think, if his number was called, he'd be ready. And
the problem is he was just the number 3 slot receiver.
Yeah,
he's not big, and he had Eric Singleton and Malcolm Simmons ahead of him.
So I
like Bryce Kane a lot.
He's
do too. Fast as a deer and great player.
I would not. Yeah, don't give up on Bryce Kane yet if you're a fan. I also
How about Sam Turner?
How about Sam Turner? And we have not heard from the Smith brothers.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that I think at this point, if you haven't heard from someone, maybe the negotiation's still going on, but one would think that if you're going, if you want to go into the portal, one would think that you
should probably be going soon.
It would behoove you to have been in the portal Friday at midnight, if you're going to do it. And so the fact that you haven't heard from the Smith brothers either would make me think. And Duke Smith is somebody you talk about a toolsy, give it a year or 2 and see what can happen kind of receiver.
How about this, Dan? They're still after a couple of more receivers, and there could be others, but they've already got 10. That's 10 if everybody comes back.
And a receiver that has said publicly he plans on taking an Auburn visit that I really like, speaking of the 850, Jace Brown was the number 1. Jace Brown was the number 1 at Kansas State
he was
last 2 seasons.
He was the top wide receiver in the portal until Cam went in.
And I'm under the impression Auburn made him a priority on Friday. Yeah. So I think that Jace Brown's somebody, and he's a Fulton Beach guy, went to Choctaw. You look and it seems like he's interested in coming closer to home. When you look at his visits, I mean, it's LSU and UGA's on the list, and I think he was at Ole Miss today, and it sounds like he's going to visit Auburn, and he would you'd love. I think that especially if you can lock up the Byrum Brown thing. To make yourself an attractive option for Jace Brown would be, because he's going to be a number 1 somewhere, and if you can get yourself into that sweepstakes on top of what you've already added from from South Florida. Like if you can, and what you've retained for that matter, like you could put yourself, you could have a really interesting looking room in year one.
Real quick with the other guys, Eric Singleton off to the NFL. I don't know if we talked about that since then. That one really made sense.
I've talked about Jace before on the podcast, but just because he's an A50
sure.
guy, a Choctaw guy doing well.
Cam Coleman feels like a Texas or Texas versus A&M bidding war. Alabama trying to get in the mix as well.
Rumors that Texas Tech is going to try to
yeah, I mean, why not?
To make noise. Yeah, although, that's a...
Somebody's going to have to explain to me why Brendan Sorsby's worth that much money.
Yeah, so someone's got to explain to me why we're going to come down so hard on these Group of 5 programs for no showing in the playoff, but we have to keep pretending the Big 12 is like one of the major conference teams. But no, you got that billionaire running ads for Texas Tech, so they probably have some NIL money running around. Maybe Lubbock will be the answer for
Perry
Cam.
Thompson to Minnesota. Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting thing. I did not see him going to the Big Ten, and especially not to Minnesota, but we'll see. He'll have opportunities.
You get the sense with both Perry and Malcolm that they want an opportunity to be the number one wherever they go. And with Malcolm, I know he's talked about, I think, Kentucky and Arkansas were Malcolm's visits. And so it's like, yeah, you probably have a better shot of being the number one there than maybe some other places that have already committed a lot of money at that position.
Ryan G back at tight end, announcing that. You did sign DJ Broughton. Jonathan Eccles from USF coming over. Good young player. He's going to be a sophomore next season. Only had 10 catches, but 3 of them were for touchdowns. Former 4-star, 6'6", 235, played at IMG. He checks a lot of boxes there at that tight end spot. Be very interested to see if Auburn continues. I know they had the Howard tight end on a visit here. Or is it Cale Ellis back? So Connor Liu going to the National Football League. Cale Ellis coming back. Dan, I know it was kind of up and down for Cale, but it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about with the offensive line. I think the path forward for your offensive line is you need to find young guys, play them early, and stick with them. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let them play through it. And maybe by the time they're upperclassmen, you're talking about a guy who could be one of your better offensive linemen. That's obviously the track that Connor Liu was on.
Does still seem like you're going to have to hit the portal pretty significantly for offensive line help. You wonder how important eligibility remaining is when you decide, like, do you want to bring in guys that represent one-year solutions, or do you want to bring in younger guys and sort of grow with them? And will that influence decisions from players like Byrum Brown and other guys? What sort of what's the picture like on the offensive line?
Before we started recording, there was a report that Tegra Shabola, he was the former number 36 overall player in the country, number 6 offensive tackle. He was in all Big Ten honorable mentions starting offensive lineman at Ohio State this season. He is in the portal. Auburn and Kentucky will get visits for him. So that would be a very big pickup. 6'6", 322 with plenty of experience. That obviously would be a big deal for Auburn if they could get him.
Of the offensive linemen who are slated to return, beyond Ellis, does anyone else jump out to you as like, okay, keep an eye.
Jacoby Ward. I like Jacoby Ward's upside. Or I think he's a guy that you continue to hear stuff, people talk about, and we hadn't heard from everybody yet, but Jacoby Ward, just because it's kind of a big deal for him coming back. DeAndre Carter is at Iowa State now, because that's where Jake Thornton ended up. So just a little update there. Defensively, Malik Autry and Jordan Crawford back for Auburn. Dan, you didn't get to keep Malik Blockton in that mix, but
you don't have Ty Buster didn't announce he's in the portal, right? I feel like you did not get an announcement.
But you haven't heard that.
You haven't heard, but I
can't remember that.
Yeah, I would say
he'd be another one too.
He'd be another player I would put in that same sort of track with
Autry and Crawford back on the defensive front. I mean, banking on young guys, letting them develop is the way to go. Those are two. I mean, I think they'd be pretty high value targets if they got into the portal. Former 5-star and a very high 4-star in Jordan Crawford. I like Jordan Crawford's game a ton. Autry obviously has got tremendous upside with his size. But yeah, that's building blocks. You just got to get some experience around those dudes.
We know that Vontrell and DJ Durkin want to have a lot of options like in that room. So it feels like even though you retained Jordan and Malik, and it feels like you're going to count on them to make a big jump in year 2 as college football players, you're still going to want multiple options available, multiple bodies available on the defensive line that you can cycle through, because those gas tanks run out really quick.
Real quick, just because I didn't mention him earlier, Devin Vass, the Kansas State offensive lineman, visited this weekend. That'd be a good pickup to make if Auburn can land him. They also got a visit from a running back. We were talking about running back, Jacoby Jackson, who had 2 years ago 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. Got hurt last year. Another Pensacola kid, originally from JUCO, and big defensive tackle from North Texas, Sadiq Clements, who was really, really good in the AAC this year, is in there. Cody Sigler, originally from West Alabama, had a phenomenal year at Arkansas State. Also one to look at defensive line. Edge rushers, Jared Smith and Joe Phillips, both announcing that they're back. Jared Smith makes a lot of sense. Kind of started off his career as a third down guy, didn't play as much toward the end of the season, but the upside's there with him, former 5-star. I'll say this, you talk about your kind of guys and like your personal picks. I believe in Joe Phillips. I love his game. He's had injuries. I'm still a believer in Joe Phillips. I think Auburn keeping him is a good sign. Kid from right down the road was going to go to Georgia, flips to Auburn. I like his game a lot. He's just got to stay healthy.
He's had some pretty talented players in front of him.
Yep.
On the depth chart too, which is I think it's just a little bit like Bryce Kane,
right?
Where it's like some of the lack of production over the first 2 years can be attributed to he's blocked from getting on the field a lot. You won't be able to say that at the moment. You won't be able to say that about his third year, right? Like right now, it's like doesn't seem like he's blocked from being able to go produce because there are more experienced and more senior players ahead of him on the depth chart. That doesn't seem to be the case where it's like that's where for both Joe Phillips and I know we're going to get to the secondary shortly, but like with Joe Phillips and with Jared Smith, and I would say with the 2 linebackers that were freshmen this past year. Yeah,
Elijah Melendez, Bryce Diaz announced they're both back along with DeMarcus Riddick. We already know the Xavier Atkins one. That's a complete linebacker room.
And and Woodyard would have been a great retention. But the fact
Missouri,
is,
it looks like the move for him.
You look and you probably would have needed to say goodbye to one of those 5 guys.
Yeah,
because trying to pay that room,
it would have been hard, I think, to keep Melendez and Woodyard.
Yeah,
because I think you were going to have to play one of those guys.
And you want to see how much better I think both Juice and Melendez can get.
Yeah.
Right, and you want to see
Melendez, especially being the mic, yeah.
And you hope that Riddick can shake off the upper body problems that limited him for the entire 25 season. But no, I think that feels like you're asking. I'm really curious to see what the next 9 months or so are like for Joe Phillips and Jared Smith, right? Because those are guys that could be counted on. Like they both feel like.
I think Auburn needs some experience at edge rusher to add to it, but yeah, those are good building blocks,
and they feel like potential breakouts. Right,
sure.
If they,
Jared,
kind of like Amaris a year ago, where it's like that's a guy who could come out of nowhere if everything breaks right. But it's also you're banking a lot on potential if they're the guys that are going to play the most.
Eric Winters, New Boy Fagans, Blake Woodby all coming back. I mean, they all played a decent bit as freshmen. That's a great safety pairing. That's a good young corner to build around. They got Gavin Jenkins, who played a little bit as a redshirt freshman at USF. He's in. Fred Gaskin. In all AAC defensive back this year, very versatile playmaker, gets into the backfield, really good blitzer,
line of scrimmage defensive back.
Yeah,
like that's sort of like, and I know like you're waiting to hear what Sylvester Smith is going to do.
It's like That's some of those guys.
Yeah,
Champ, Rayshawn.
That's a line of scrimmage defensive back.
I like
right
Gaskin
there,
a lot as a rotation piece. I have who did I compare him to the other day? There was a Auburn, there was a Gus era DB that I was saying he reminded me of. We'll keep going and hold on. Dan, also a specialist coming in. Hudson Powell, got 2 Hudsons in the room. Hudson Powell, long snapper with Miami of Ohio, obviously has that familiarity with Auburn's new special teams coordinator.
A lot of Hudson news on this show, right?
Yes.
It's like an airport.
Robinson Threezy is who I made the comp for Fred Gaskin.
Very exciting.
That kind of player, that kind of like pin your ears back and go type of DB. I love dudes like that. So really like that game. Really like the upside there. So that's kind of it right now. There's gonna be more to come. I mean, Auburn needs like dozens of guys. I will continue to make my point that I made on Twitter. I think it kind of got a little blown out of proportion for something that was just a tweet, but like my take continues is like, okay, yes, Auburn's getting a lot of USF guys. Why wouldn't you? They had an awesome offense last year. I think Indiana's shown that bringing guys over from a successful group of 5 to follow their head coach is good.
Pavia didn't come alone.
Yes,
from New Mexico
That's
State.
That's another great example.
Brought Eli Stowers with him.
And my joke of, Auburn won as many SEC games as USF did last year. And it's like, yeah, you want to win more. Auburn was 1-7, USF was 1-0. So maybe that's a little bit of a difference. But I will say, like, it is a lot. You want to continue out a lot. You're going to need a lot. So why not go get the guys that already know these systems and know this coaching staff and, make a lot of sense in the room. And then you're going to build it out with a lot of other guys. I'll also say real quick, there's some guys we mentioned. Brown, we were saying earlier, at wide receiver, the big guy from Ohio State on the offensive line, just a number of these dudes. There are a number of these guys at Auburn going after their big name players, like big name recruits, big name transfers, towards the top of the board.
You're going for Jace Brown. You're going heads up with LSU and UGA.
Yeah.
And he visited Ole Miss
and
already.
It's like big, like some of the biggest names in the portal, right? If you want to go pull these off. Byrum Brown, if he was out like completely on the open market, would be one of the best quarterbacks that are making a move this year. But I would caution real quick, don't get too hung up on recruiting rankings in the portal because this is absolutely no shade whatsoever to our friends in the recruiting sites. Although I don't think any of our friends here do any of the actual ranking. It's a tough job. It's a really, really hard job. There are so many guys going to the portal. There is no good way to rank all these guys in the portal moving in and out. It kind of becomes kind of random and arbitrary at some point.
How common is it to see an offensive lineman ranked really high in the transfer portal and 3-4 games into the season, you're not seeing that dude on the field for his new team?
I don't know about not seeing that dude on the field, but I've seen some highly rated offensive linemen at Auburn not pan out. And look, there are success stories and there are nonsense. It's like regular recruiting. I find that it's such a smaller window of evaluation. It's apples to oranges sometimes when you look at competition levels, and it's just tougher. It's just tougher in general, and everything's going so fast. So you might look at it and say, like, well, these guys they're getting from USF, well, they're not among the top players at their position. It's like, well, they do know the system and they do know this coaching staff. That should give them a plus. Also, recruiting rankings, especially the transfer portal, can be a little bit more hit or miss. And so I think the priority is fit and, fit with the team, fit with the culture, fit with your style. I think that's a lot more important. I think that gets overlooked a lot, where it's like you could go get, say, a really, really good wide receiver in the portal or a really good running back in the portal, but does he fit what you want? Does he fit the role that you want him to be? I think that's kind of more important out of the portal. Some of these teams that have worked the portal really, really well, Indiana, but like Texas Tech before. Texas Tech's probably the exception here. But I look at like Miami. I look at
I think you can say Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt for sure. I was looking at some of the teams in the portal.
I know Mateer had an up and down season.
Right.
But
okay.
But
Mateer was as big of a name as you could move in the portal. I think some of these teams that have done a really, really good job in the portal, and you think of them as they did it through the portal, it's evaluation and fit more than, okay, was this guy a blue chip coming out of high school? Was this guy, one of the biggest names of all?
It's easy. Look, it's easy to play this result right now, but like, if I had asked you a year ago who Trinidad Chambliss was,
right,
you'd say,
and it's like last season there was a lot of excitement around Xavier Chaplin, and it just didn't work out the way. Again, like, just because a guy's name is at the top of a list doesn't necessarily make him. There are exceptions. I think Cam Coleman's awesome wherever he goes, but I also have the experience of like I've watched this dude up close and personal.
Auburn shopped at the top of the market consistently on the offensive line of the transfer portal. Like Gunner and Dylan Wade were the top two tackles.
Mason Murphy
available.
wasn't that low on the list. I think he was a top 10 tackle.
Percy Lewis,
top 15. Yeah.
I mean, Auburn. That was something like bring in the most highly touted offensive lineman was something Auburn tried already. At least, hold on, bring in the most highly touted offensive lineman from the portal in a given year, or among the most highly touted offensive linemen from the that is something, and that's not to say it won't work if you try it again. But I think paying attention to fit and chemistry and trusting the internal evaluations rather than the star rankings, right? I think is probably a pretty good strategy.
By the way, just real quick, I wanted to throw this out because I don't know. I'm just that kind of way. Jalen McLeod was the 61st linebacker in his transfer class, 700th overall. Kieron Crawford was the 95th ranked edge rusher in his class. And just like, again, those guys played well for you. Fit in your system matters, and I think evaluation. And like the measurement, I think the thing from transitioning from the Hugh Freeze era to this one is this: recruiting well, building a roster well, isn't necessarily did you get the biggest number on the recruiting ranking websites. I think we're now seeing in this day and age of college football is, did you evaluate and find guys that fit what you want to do better than others? That's it. And that's what you're going to be measured on.
And I would point out,
usually those overlap, but they don't always.
Like McLeod and Kieron are great examples, but it's like the fact is that especially in the last 3-4 seasons for Auburn, you've gone into the portal and you've tried all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And some of the best players you've gotten out of the portal have
Did
come.
Not work.
No. Some of the best players you've gotten out of the portal have come from the group of 5 level.
Oh, yeah.
Like whether it's McLeod, whether it's Crawford.
Well, it's usually guys who are moving from the group from the power conference level. It's you're either at the top of the market or you probably didn't play as much. You know,
I would point out Strader, right? I would point out
Rayshon Pleasant.
Yeah. How about Rivaldo? Like, I mean, you've had several guys who played. Gunnar Britton. Like you've had several really important pieces that did not come over from other SEC or Big Ten programs. But
Dallas Walker ended up being one of your better defensive linemen this year, and he was at Western Kentucky. So it's like, yes, I think you want to see that. You want to see those 4 stars. You want to see that high ranking next to your name. But I think in the transfer portal, it's even more of a crapshoot than usual. And I think. In a system now of college football where it is a 1-year cycle over and over and over again, and you're just trying to max out as best as you can, I think the new era, and we'll see how the rest of this playoff shakes out, but I think this new era is going to be more defined by development and fit and talent eval more than necessarily winning the recruiting national championship on the 247 or the on-3 rankings, which, again, are very useful. But things might be shifting now, so keep that in mind. All right, we've got a basketball game to look back upon and then one to look ahead to, because by the time you're listening to this on Tuesday morning, Auburn will be playing Tuesday night, SEC home opener against Texas A&M. Before we get to that, though, we have to talk about Auburn's SEC opener overall, which was an absolutely wild one in Athens on Saturday. Auburn losing 104-100 in overtime to Georgia. Dan, these games are always like this, it seems like, going to Athens. And then we talked about it with Jordan Hill, a rare opportunity where Georgia was the favorite in this game. You knew it was going to be a tough one for Auburn. They had their opportunities. They battled back. They were down 9 early in the second half, took the lead at one point. And then, of course, the crazy finish, down was it 5 with a few seconds left on the clock, down 4 with less than a second left technically, when Keshaun Hall gets fouled. Kevin Overton makes the miracle put back off the missed free throw to send it into overtime. In overtime, Auburn has a lead. Georgia hits a couple of huge shots. Jeremiah Wilkinson hits 2 of the biggest threes, like contested threes, you'll ever see. Auburn's not able to execute late on offense or defense, and Georgia holds on to win. No Tahad Pettiford, no Philip Jovic, who had a phenomenal game in that overtime period. So Auburn losing by 4 on the road, not a bad loss at all for a team that, again, was the underdog and was the underdog by more than that heading into this game. However, a missed opportunity, Dan, because this was a quad 1 opportunity. And the only time you play Georgia all year, which is crazy.
You don't really know what the top of the SEC is going to look like at the end of the season right now. It feels more wide open than usual, and we'll see if either of the teams we saw Saturday are contending for the SEC regular season championship. But you'd love to steal a road game, right? Because those could end up being the separators. Those could end up being the difference if this thing is tight at the end of the year.
And it could help seeding in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
Because I think here's the thing right now we're seeing. This Auburn basketball team is 9-5. Got a couple good wins against St. John's and NC State. I know those two teams took some tough losses this weekend, but those are probably still NCAA tournament teams. Oregon's trying to climb out of the hole that they built for themselves. Obviously, Auburn loses to Houston and Michigan and Arizona and Purdue, obviously the last three being big ones. Now lose this one to Georgia. I think, you're about almost to the halfway point of the season, and you don't want to let one game kind of change everything you feel about this team. But I do think that, I keep getting vibes from this team that's very similar to the team from 3 seasons ago, which was Janai Broom's first year at Auburn. That's the team that goes to the NCAA tournament as a 9 seed and, beats Iowa, loses to Houston. If you remember, that team got some good wins, had some tough losses, and they struggled on offense. That was a team that had a really hard time putting the ball in the basket. I think this team, it's the opposite. This team can score. Defense is where they've had their real issues, and I think that's what's making this team probably a little bit more frustrating for some Auburn fans at this point, because not only are you coming off the best season you've ever had.
It's such a wild pendulum swing, right? From last year's defense.
And I would compare it also to that 22-23 team, and what was that team coming off of?
Right.
Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, and this SEC champion, this team that was so good.
One of the great front courts in program history.
Right, and and a really elite team at scoring and doing a lot of things. And it was different the year after that. I think you're seeing that this year to the point where, that Auburn team went 10-8 in the regular season in the SEC. Like we said, got a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think their resume is a little bit better than that. They got a couple more non-conference wins that team did not get that I think were more quality. But, it's one of those things where I think this team, this is an NCAA tournament team, and I think the analytics bear that out, but this is a team with obvious flaws, and like you said, it is a big adjustment from what we've seen in years past, not just because, you got a new head coach. And again, I think if Bruce Pearl was still the head coach at Auburn, you'd be still dealing with it. It's the same roster. It's the same setup. This is, what this team was playing. I mean, heck, Bruce Pearl was the head coach until right before the season started. So that's the thing there that, back off that ledge, Auburn fans. I do think, though, this team is going to have to grind in the SEC, and it might be more towards the middle of the pack, but it's probably going to be an SEC, an NCAA tournament team. On top of that, if they grind and they continue to get better as the season goes on, because it's 10 newcomers, if they continue to get better as the season goes on, like you said, this SEC is wide open enough where I don't think this team's going to win a championship, and I think it would take a whole lot for them to be a top 4 seed in the SEC this year.
I believe,
but
right.
They could make some noise.
Would you like to guess earlier today, if you wanted to wager on Auburn to win the SEC? I
saw this, and I think they were 8th or 9th.
But would you like? I believe the number is.
Oh, I don't care.
I believe the number is 50-1 right now around on the board, 8th or 9th in the league or so.
Yeah, that's the more telling one.
I think it's a. Yeah, I mean, even in a wide open league, I understand people have some doubts.
Like Vandy's the favorite in the league right now, and I think Vandy's awesome. But we've also there's a lot to prove there.
There's a lot of basketball left, and so
for 17 games left. You got 9 weeks
for this Auburn team, and that's not to diminish concerns that people have about the. And in a game
this team has clear and obvious concerns and flaws that they have to address,
and that's and I think they're made all the more glaring because they're flaws that you didn't have in recent seasons.
To a degree. So here's the thing about this team that I think really stands out.
you have a theory defensively that I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, this team is not big up front, right? It's a thinner, smaller front court than usual. they do rebound the snot out of the ball. They were plus 15 on the boards against Georgia. They rebounded a ton of their own misses. I think they play with really good effort on the glass. And I think it shows that. And then outside of those games against those gargantuan teams, they've rebounded the ball pretty well this season. They also can score around the rim for the most part. This team can score. It's still a top 15 team offensively in college basketball right now, according to KenPom. The problem is it's twofold, right? It's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation here with this Auburn defense,
and I think that the first thing you're going to say is the reason Stephen, coming into the press conference Saturday after that game. I mean, it's a close game that goes to overtime, and he is particularly disappointed in just the one-on-one defense on the perimeter.
Well, the one-on-one defense on the perimeter is the big thing, because that's what they said coming in that was going to be the difference, right? You have to get better in one-on-one defense. And I think the NC State game and the St. John's second half especially saw Auburn step up on the defensive end. We have seen this team play good stretches of defense. We saw it some in the Houston game as well. We have seen them play really good defense. It's just not happening on a consistent enough basis. And they didn't do the things they needed to do consistently enough. You know, on Monday, Stephen Pearl said, we had about, I think he said 26 good defensive possessions. The problem is there's 80-something, with the way Georgia plays. So here's the thing with this team. You don't have the classic rim protection, the double barrel rim protection that you had in the past, obviously with Dylan Cardwell and Jani Byrum. You had that for 3 years running. Before that, you had Walker Kessler, who might be the best shot blocker Auburn ever has, in terms of just he's 7'1", and was just elite at protecting the rim. Go all the way back, though. You go back to Anthony McLemore and the rim protection some of those teams got. In years past, Auburn's been able to lean on that, and so you had guards that did a really good job of really pressing up and gambling stuff. And if they got beaten off the dribble, they had protection behind them. Well, you don't have that anymore. You don't have that anymore. So you have to be better on the perimeter. And Stephen Pearl had said this, I think it was before the Queens game. Really, Denver Jones, Miles Kelly were like really good get out there perimeter defenders. I think Bryce Brown would fit that mold. Isaac Okoro, even though he played that kind of 3-4 mold in the past, would be like that. But you had a lot of defenders in the past for Auburn who weren't stoppers. They just knew how to lean on, the protection they had back there. They don't have that anymore. But you knew you didn't have that anymore. And I think for Auburn, the big thing is your strengths and your weaknesses. You've got to do a better job of, playing to what should be your strengths. And yes, this team might not have a shutdown defender in the backcourt or enough of them, right? It might not have. I think they have pieces of what could be a good perimeter defense. It just is not happening on a consistent enough basis. Some of that is the inexperience. Some of that's the lack of chemistry. I think some of it's effort and energy and attention to detail. I think there's a lot to work on for this team. But my thing is that, if you're looking at this Auburn basketball team and saying, well, they're not big enough and that's why they're bad on defense, I don't see that. I see a team that is more guard-oriented in their roster, or at least has more pieces in their backcourt, especially when you talk about playing against these teams like Georgia who go 4 and 5 out, right? And your 4s and sometimes your 5s have to go out on the perimeter. So if you're saying 1 through 4, you need to do a better job of guarding one-on-one and not letting your guy beat you. And that's the thing, is that if you're a team that knows you don't have that rim protection, you can't be defending like this. It can't be this. Because what happens is what happens in this game. In Georgia, as a team goes 23 of 36 from 2 and gets almost whatever they want at the rim and dunks. Yes, Auburn is not going to be a team that blocks a lot of shots or affects a ton at the rim, especially compared to years past. Okay, so don't let them get there as easily. And that's Georgia's strength, right? But Auburn, I think, made it way too easy on Georgia to make that happen, whether it's not closing out correctly, giving up too much on certain hands. Stephen Pearl talked a lot about guys falling for pump fakes on the perimeter. You leave the air, okay, they're going downhill. Well, they want to go downhill. This is not a really good three-point shooting team. I know they hit some big threes in this game, but this is a team that more likely wanted to attack the rim. Well, guess what? You got another one of those coming up against Texas A&M, and they're even better at shooting from 3 off of that. and you can't just play zone all the time, and you can't just change your defense up over and over again. At the end of the day, and I think this has kind of been the message from the staff before the Georgia game, after the Georgia game, at the end of the day, it is that guy who's got the ball and I'm responsible for him, he can't beat me easily. Yeah. He can't beat me this easily. And
it's will.
Right. Like you have to kind of get something going about you and make a play. And make a play. And look, guys are going to score. These are D1 athletes. These are SEC basketball players. They're going to get you. And you might not be an elite defense this season, but you got to be better than what you're putting out. And I think that's the thing, is that we have seen this team do that in spurts. It's got to come more consistently. Like again, the Georgia game. A quarter of their possessions are probably good defensive possessions. Okay? How do you make that even more? There's 100 and something. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 137 defensive mistakes.
The number of mistakes, yeah.
And it's like, if everybody cuts down on just a few of their own, it's a different ballgame. And that's the thing, is that you don't need this team to become, this team's not going to become like Tony Bennett, Virginia overnight in terms of your defense, right? It's not even going to be some of the best Stephen Pearl and Bruce Pearl defense we've seen in the past. That's unrealistic. You're halfway through the season. What you can say, though, is the stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the other side, can you cut those down enough? And if you can't, I think this offense is good enough that it can carry you to wins in some of these games. But you can't give up as much as you did in this Georgia game.
I am curious to see how much they want to sort of lean on a zone. You know what I mean, defensively, to try to. I mean,
it's hard to go back and forth, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Without
especially with all these newcomers.
So I mean, so that's going to be. I know some folks would say, like, if you lack a traditional rim protector, like some teams, or if you're trying to make up.
Yeah, they're not going to become Boeheim Syracuse overnight.
Exactly. So
and they're also not. You've said this in the past. I think it's a really good point. They're not going to become press and trap crazy because they're not as deep as they usually have been.
A lot of folks say, well, we'll become a full court press team to sort of like.
You have two of the guys on scholarship who have been. One of them's out for the season. The other one hasn't played in a long time. And you've got a couple other guys who were dealing with injuries.
And I would say, by the way, like if half court defense is if you're still trying to figure out what works, like leaning on the full court press, especially with Auburn's athletes, like that would be an option if you weren't. I mean, you're talking about 8 guys playing against Georgia, and Magwood, after the first 5-6 minutes of the game,
back at point guard.
Yeah. I mean, and he only plays 7 minutes total.
Yeah, he doesn't play in overtime after Todd fouls out.
Right. So I mean, it's like, so you really went with 7 in that game, and it's tough to ask 7 to. And the other thing
to
is
play that style all game long.
And something we talked about with Jordan Hill is with a team like Georgia and the pace they want to play and the number of possessions they want to create. If you're talking about a plan that involves 7 or even 8, you better brace yourself for foul trouble.
Yeah,
and it
hurt Auburn in this game.
It hurt Auburn the longer the game went on.
Early in the game, and SP talked about this on Monday when I asked him about the defense, and I just asked him, like, was there stuff that you guys did against Queens that you didn't do against Georgia? And yes, Queens is not as good as Georgia. We all know that. But, like, is there stuff you could control where you saw a difference? And I think one of the big things for him, he said, we get in foul trouble early and you have to scale back how you want to play aggressively on defense. And that's tough because I do think this team is going to have to be a little bit more aggressive and play it certain way. Because the problem is that, against a lot of these teams, you can't just sit here and sit back in a zone or, bring a ton of help, because you're going to leave kick-out opportunities for threes, and they're just going to bomb threes on you. There's some really, really good shooting teams that are built that way. Sometimes you just need to, like, it goes something. I've heard it a ton these last couple of weeks from around Auburn basketball right now. It's like the best defenders don't need help, and that's Auburn needs more guys who can can be on an island, not disconnected, right? Like not. I'm on an island over here, and it doesn't matter what's going on behind me. I'm locked in on my man. You do have to have that connection. You do have to stay in gaps. You do have to be loaded the correct way out there. But it can't just be, well, if the guy gets a step on me, I got my buddy back there is going to help you out. It's not always, and sometimes that buddy will help you out, and that's going to leave a wide open dude on the weak side.
And there were a couple of possessions in the first half against Georgia because Steven's on camera for these, where Georgia finds a guy on the perimeter and the closeout hasn't gotten there yet, or the help hasn't gotten there yet, and the guy hits the three, and Steven looks like he's going to spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a couple of threes in the second half of this game where Auburn's in zone, and Georgia's figured out something to overload, and they hit the first one but missed the second one. And it's just like that goes also to show, if you're constantly changing up, on this possession we're running this defense. If we're on this possession, we're running this defense. You're having to remember so much stuff on the defensive end, and you don't have that continuity. You don't have that institutional knowledge you've had in the past with your defense. And so what happens there is you start having to think too much, and you can't just go out and play. You don't want to be simplistic, right? You do want to change things up. I think, Stephen
it's like a game show, right? Where you and the team, you and your teammate in that immediate moment have to be thinking the exact same thing.
Sure.
You have to know,
Yeah.
am I going to shade? Am I going to help?
Right.
Am I going? Yeah.
And I think the other thing there is, like Stephen Pearl has said, twice now, after the game and then, before this one against Texas A&M, that it's like, hey, here's the deal. I'm always going to try to find ways that I can be better and how I can make adjustments. He said, felt like the coaching staff, he and the coaching staff did not make adjustments well enough on defense to what was happening in the game. And that starts with those guys, and I think that's the right way to go about it. But there's also the I can't defend for you. And it's true. And you don't want to be too simplistic, Dan, but it also comes down to this. It's the purest form of basketball. Me and the other guy. That other guy can't win, right? Or they can't win as consistently as they have. It's got to be more even. And Auburn, I think, sometimes got in a position where they were just hoping that things would miss, that would rim out. They missed those opportunities. So, again, this Auburn defense has shown abilities to string together stops and play well against perimeter, oriented teams, really talented teams. The problem is you're not doing it consistently enough. And again, some of that is going to come down to you're not experienced. You don't have that continuity. You don't have that, that glue that you got to lean on really for the last two seasons, especially last season. So you got to make the best of it in the meantime. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's just going to come down to guys just got to get better on defense. Mm-hmm. They got to, even if you're not going to be a lockdown defender, even if you're not, that's not what your bread and butter is going to be as a basketball player. You can do more, and I think that's kind of the things for them is like cut down your mistakes.
Is this a team-wide sort of thing, by the way? Like, are there specific?
Well, it's interesting. They talked about how like they showed some stuff as a team, and then individually kind of broke down. Okay, this is what happened on this play. This is what you did on the.
I'm wondering if it's especially aimed at the guards.
It's
like,
I do.
Yeah.
There's a quote that was said on Monday that I thought was pretty interesting. About Philip Jovich, real quick. He said,
his identity.
Well, he said on Monday. He said he was one of the best guarding their guards, and he was one of their best guarding their bigs. We watched film today of him getting in a stance and getting low and wide, and I challenged my guard. That's what you guys need to look like.
I mean,
because if he can do it, you should be able to too. He has a different level of pride than most kids you're going to see. I agree. I think it's some of it's a want to. It's kind of like rebounding. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything about rebounding and everything about playing defense is effort and energy and want to, but it plays a key part. And I don't think you see that often enough on the defensive end from Auburn across the board. You see it from some guys at sometimes. You may see it from one guy all the time at times. It needs to be much more consistent. Because even if those dudes on the other end are really good at offense, which Georgia is, even if they've got really good players like Texas A&M does, what can you control to cut that down? Because, again, I think you have a good enough offense that if you just make steady, modest improvements to your defense, you're going to be in a good spot to win some of these games in SEC play, and still have a chance to make some noise, still have a chance to be a good team. I think for Auburn, it's just you got to simplify what you're doing on defense. You got to correct the big problems that you have because you're not going to be able to fix everything. And then at the end of the day, it's just like, have some pride about you. And it's getting a stance and don't let the guy in front of you beat you that easily.
There's an adage that the way you measure a team's effort, or the places where you look for effort if you're evaluating a basketball player, transition, offense and defense, are they getting back and getting up the floor?
And I thought Auburn was okay in those areas.
And I don't think, especially for a team that's relatively thin, right? You're still seeing Auburn try to push and Auburn try to get back. You're not seeing teams beat Auburn in that area.
They were when Auburn was turning the ball over a lot more.
Yeah,
but that's been cut down.
Rebounding and on ball defense are the three areas where if you're gonna just that's where you're looking to see how hard a guy is playing, and that's something where I think with Stephen Pearl, he has a situation right now at forward. He does have the luxury of sitting somebody down if he's unhappy with what he sees, right? You think that because you have Jovic and because you have Sway and both Keshauns, when everyone's healthy, he has the opportunity. At guard, I mean, Tahad and Overton, the plan is to play both of those guys a ton. Right. So it feels like they're indispensable enough that you need them to defend.
Well, I think the thing you have is you have a guy who plays the 2 and the 3, and you have a guy who plays the 3 and the 4, and you can kind of bridge some of those gaps. You have a guy who plays the 4 and the 5. But you're at a point now where you don't. I mean, 2 of the guys you thought you could have off-ball guards off the bench this year, just one of them hasn't played in a long time because of health reasons. He dealing with a back thing. He had illness that kept him out for a while as well. And then in the case of Simon Walker, he has a preseason injury that puts him behind the 8 ball. And he was already a guy that you knew it was going to take some more for him to make the jump, especially on the defensive end, because he's not known for his perimeter quickness. He is not known for his agility and on the perimeter. Can shoot the leather off the ball at times, but defense was always going to be the thing that he needed to develop, and he missed time that he could have, been able to do that with.
And one of the unheralded things about having depth is that as a coach, you have the leverage to sit somebody down if you're unhappy with what you're seeing on the floor. And right now, I think Steven has the leverage at some positions to sit somebody down if he's unhappy. But there are some pretty indispensable pieces
and I don't think
on this team.
I don't think Auburn's playing at a level where it's like, okay, this guy clearly needs to be off the floor. Right. I don't think you're getting that. I think you've got some guys that are more offense than defense, and that's frustrating because they have valuable offense, but they can't be liabilities on defense. I think sometimes that happens. But yeah, I think it's just you kind of have to just plug through it. It's that's the thing about this team, and I think this game showed it as well. It's like, as frustrating as the defense can be, there's still so much firepower on this offensive end. And I
thought they left points on the board.
Oh, plenty. They miss a lot of shots at the rim. Some of it comes to the fact that Samto Cyril is huge and is a really great shot. And everybody they really bring off the bench is a good shot blocker up front.
13 turnovers isn't a huge number considering how many possessions there were in that game. But I still would say there were a couple where it's like, oh, that's correctable. That's easy stuff. That's a
it's 5th highest turnover rate this season for Auburn. No, but Georgia gambles for a lot is
sure.
That's their style.
And some of them felt unforced, right? Where it's like that stuff.
Oh,
that
most
Auburn,
of them were unforced.
Yeah.
I think what is it? Auburn finishes that game with 13 turnovers and Georgia has 4 steals. So, yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. But I do think the end game and what you saw in overtime before Georgia pulled away was you've got a team that's got firepower. You got a team that can come back. You got a team that can stick together, which I think was key. And additionally, I think they could just be a lot of fun, right? There's moments that are definitely frustrating. I think the drop off or the change or the shift and what they were last year to now can leave a bad taste in some fans' mouths. But there are stretches of this team where they are plenty entertaining. And so this is not going to be a title contender, but this is going to be a team that I think if they can make
this is
those
gonna be
corrections and push forward, they can still be fun and still make some noise and still be a memorable team at the end of it all.
When you say a title contender,
SEC title contender,
you don't think this team? Yeah, okay. So I mean, that's and it feels. I'm not sure who is. I guess that's the reason I would hold off on saying that they're not.
Vandy and Alabama and Arkansas, maybe. I think Florida and Tennessee and Kentucky. I think it's just one game for a lot of those teams.
What I do think is true is that for a couple of years you got used to seeing an Auburn team that you felt like could beat anyone, absolutely anyone in college basketball, and that's probably not true of this year's team.
You saw it last year. The year before was a little different. I think towards the end they looked like that. By the end they look like that. I mean, Auburn still got 17 games left in the regular season. I think I said earlier though, if Auburn's a double bye in the SEC tournament, they have really picked their game up. It's possible because I don't sit here and say, are there 4 teams in the SEC that are definitively just a level above Auburn and it's like it's going to take a lot for Auburn to catch those? I don't think so. I think there might be a couple of them, but we also haven't seen Auburn play. Like, we've seen Auburn swing with some good teams and beat a couple of good teams. We've also seen them lose to some of these teams. And I don't think there is a team in the SEC that is comparable to what they saw in Michigan and Arizona and Purdue, right? So I think the best of the SEC is more like Houston, right? So what can you do to kind of be more consistent that way?
I think you're probably right when you say like this is an Auburn team that
I think this is a team that can finish in the top half of the SEC, but I don't know if they get a top 4 seed.
Yeah, things would need to break. A lot of things would need to break right for Auburn over the next.
The interesting thing though is just like you look at it is that you're one game into the SEC or you're 14 games into the season. They're exactly where they were picked to be preseason right now, right? And I think Georgia's just been better than expected, and you took a loss as a dog. Now you got to shift over and do it against A&M. But I'll point out one more thing before we move on. And we didn't talk a ton about a lot of the ins and outs from the Georgia game. But I'll say it's also been a few days ago since this happened. But I think
we hit a lot of the broad strokes.
Yeah, the offensive firepower is there. You get 20 from Keshaun Hall, you get 25 from Tahad Pettiford, and that's with him going 3 of 11 from deep. You get 19 from KO, 14, 10, 12. Like, there's so many guys, except for Sebastian Williams-Adams, who score in this game. You had the balance. You have the offense. That's the thing. I think this team has the offense.
I thought there were times in the game against Georgia where it felt like Georgia was sort of baiting Auburn into let's have a 3-point shooting contest.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Georgia hit more of them.
Right. And you would have liked for Auburn.
I think Georgia hit 3 more threes than Auburn did at the end, and the difference is I think hey, look at the 2 Wilkinson shots in overtime. I think those are just like, all right, man.
Oh yeah,
good for you.
Yeah, after he reaches down and for you older listeners, hits the pump on the he pumps up his sneakers, right? He reaches down, adjust the shoe, and then just absolutely buries a couple from
free throws. You got to be better at free throws, and that's their biggest weakness on offense. This is a team that rebounds the ball well. I think they can get hot from deep. They got a variety of scorers. I think pretty much anybody who gets in their rotation has shown that they can carry some of the scoring load. Got to hit your free throws. Got to hit your free throws. Got to hit your free throws. Everybody knows that, but they are assisting better here recently. They're cutting down some of their turnovers, the turnover rate at least. And I like the pieces on offense. It's just you got to give more on defense. And if you give more on defense, look, it's a team that's currently projected right now to go 9-9 in the SEC. I think if they play better on defense, because right now they are 89th in defense on KenPom, I think if they make improvements on defense and they've got time to do it, they can make some, solid improvements. I don't expect miracles at this point in the year. If they can make some solid improvements on defense, that number can go to 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins. It's going to be a lot tougher, though. If you stay where you are right now, it's going to be give and take because there's a lot of teams like that in the league. It's just going to be a lot of give and take. So I will say 2 more things. Number 1, Tahad Pettiford not starting in the game. I'll be interested to see if that continues on Tuesday night against Texas A&M. Stephen Pearl was very clear that it's, disciplinary. If you want to be a starter, you want to be a leader on the team, you got to be one. and lead by example.
What did you think of Magwood's minutes? Because he did not return, or he didn't see very much.
Yeah, you didn't see him at the 2-guard spot a ton because I think they needed KO out there. Elijah Freeman would have played more minutes. He had a thigh contusion. He got kneed in the thigh, and there's like a 10-minute stretch where he doesn't play very much in the game. I thought they were fine. It's just, I think in this matchup with what they were facing on defense, it was harder to play him off ball with Tahad, so they didn't really go to that.
But he passed the ball.
He passes the ball.
Yeah, a couple of Mag
passes the ball excellently, and I'll also say this for Mag, I don't think he hit a shot in this. Yeah, he was scoreless. Missed a three. I really like his mid-range shot, and I think if he hunts that a little bit more when he's on the floor, it's a real weapon.
I was wondering if you could say that about a couple of guys on Auburn. After I know this feels easier to say when you look an Auburn shot. Like I think Auburn hit all 4 or all 5 of the long twos they attempted in the Georgia game, and you do wonder if
Todd's got to get one of those.
Yeah, like I just wonder if in general that
Murph,
could be something.
It's not necessarily a pure jumper, but he's got that like more a little bit of that push that comes from like the high post,
and it's going against the grain a little bit because so many of these defenses are used to shoot. They're used to seeing teams that are all about threes and dunks. Right, so
yes.
maybe you can get some. If like to me, it's like I understand the belief that the Kobe jumper is not what you want. It's not the optimum.
No,
right. The heels on the 3-point line, like jump shot, is not what you want.
Yeah. They don't want you to be DeMar DeRozan.
Usually, you don't want that to be the way the possession ends. But you can say that like with a. With when it's a weapon, especially within reason, and especially when you're talking about the elbow or the short corner, like I think that if you can find a way to make that work, maybe ratchet that up a little bit more.
I like the way this team plays offense, especially when everybody's passing and everybody's contributing. There's a balance there. There's a real good look. But yeah, the thing with Tahad, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to, be a leader on and off the floor. Stephen Pearl talked about showing up to stuff on time and leading by example and taking care of business the way you have to. And I don't know. I don't have any intel or scoop, and it's not my place to say it if I did, or about what's Tahad. He obviously played a ton, and he's going to continue to play. But, like, it's a thing where it's like Auburn needs their only returning player to be more of a leader on and off the floor. And I think that was a message sent. We'll see if that continues and see how Tahad responds to it. He obviously played well, 25 points before he fouled out against Georgia, and has seemed to respond well in practice too. Number 2, you mentioned it earlier, Philip Jovich, 10-10 off the bench, 5 offensive rebounds, 5 defensive rebounds. Just plays hard. It's not going to be pretty at all times, right? Offense and defense. This guy who's adapting, still learning. It's a new country. It's a new style of basketball. He said that. There are going to be problems. There are going to be issues. There are going to be moments where it's not going to look great. But that dude's motor and that sense of pride they were talking about, it really showed in this game. And I think when you look at Auburn and what it can be, I think Jovich is a great example of that, where it's like you can make improvements. There's so much newness on this team. You look at the Jovich from beginning of the season to the one that played against Georgia, you've seen strides. You got to continue to have those strides. But I think part of the reason why he's made those strides is dude just busts his tail. Out there. And I thought it was telling when Stephen Pearl said on Monday, like, we just need more guys to play like him. And that's the guy that I'm not trying to be mean here, and I'm not trying to poke because I really like Philip Jovich, and I think in time, if he can be a 2 or 3 year guy here at Auburn, he could be really, really good. But he's probably the least of the guys in the rotation right now. He's probably the least prepared to be in this moment, right? Because he's making all this. It's such a transition for him. Yet he's one of the more impactful players on the floor on Saturday, because even when it's not pretty, it's going to be 110 miles an hour, and you need more of that from your guys.
We made a lot of, like, we pointed out so many of these first-year players. Like, there are teams in college basketball that have a lot of players that are in their first year with the team. But often you're talking about a team full of guys with D1 experience that are making the jump. This is a team that beyond Kevin Overton and the Keshauns, most of your first-year players are not just first-year at Auburn players. They're not just first year in the SEC players. You're talking about first year in Division I basketball, and in the case of, I think especially Sway and Jovic, you're talking about like they're making an enormous jump from what they were facing a year ago to what they're doing now.
It's a young team. It's a relatively inexperienced team. There's only a few pieces on this team that can't play college basketball again next season. It'll be interesting to see how much Auburn is able to retain and build. But that's, again, it's like what you're saying. It's like if this team's not going to contend, this team's not going to be one of the elites, that is an adjustment. That is tough.
And
probably
it's
probably was always going to be this way. But also, in a more open SEC, make the NCAA tournament, let's see what they look like. I mean, Dan, how many of us last season were like, we're looking at Ole Miss, who currently is projected to be the second worst team in the league this year. But how many of us were looking at Ole Miss last season, especially in the month of February, and saying, you know what, that team's going to be a shot away from making the Elite Eight.
Right.
So it's like you hang in there and see where it falls in March. That's got to be the thing for this team. And you've got the potential to do that because you got A, time, and B, you've got a lot of growth. You've got a lot of potential growth out there. This is nowhere near a finished product.
You did feel like the top of the SEC was, constituted a decent percentage of the top of college basketball last year. And I don't know if you feel that way this year. Like, I wonder if you had a vote in the poll, like, where would you be putting Vanderbilt in the human polls right now? It's like, and they're the favorite to win the league right now. It's like, do you think
Alabama's a top 10 team? I just don't know how much higher.
Yeah, I wonder.
It's the thing. It's like, I think you have your elites in college basketball this season that we all know, and Auburn's played pretty much all of them. And then it's like Vanderbilt and Nebraska and teams like that, which are good. I mean, you can be who you are.
Good teams and great stories, and we'll see.
I will make the argument, though, that Ole Miss was like just barely in the top half of the SEC last year.
Sure, but like I still would say, like, last year, 4 of the 10 best teams throughout the season were SEC teams, and you don't really feel like you have that this year. And so in a season like that,
it's early. It's still very early, but obviously, we're talking about this in January. Bracket Matrix has the SEC getting 10 in this year, but it's not the same 10. Yeah. I mean, last year it was 10, and last year it's what, 14 last year, with 2 1 seeds, 2 2 seeds, a 3 seed, a 4 seed, a couple of 6 seeds. You're not going to get that this year.
But this is not a consolation at all. Like, but it's an excellent point you just made, where last season. And I think even to an extent the year before, because you didn't think Janiah Byrum was going to exhaust his eligibility in college basketball until he made the decision to do exactly that. Like, you had 2 straight seasons where there was sort of outsized pressure because it was the last chance. Mm-hmm. It was this group's last time.
It was the last dance.
It was it was the last dance, and then it was like, all right, for real this time, the last dance. Like, that's what you had the last 2 seasons. And this year, while it very well could be Tahad Pettiford's last year in college basketball, we'll see. And it's the last year for a couple of your seniors that are playing big minutes. And it's more dangerous than ever before to think that you're building to anything in college athletics because of the way that things can change year to year.
Right.
But you do seemingly have the beginning of something here. Like, this could, like, you could be talking about several pieces that are going to be in the rotation for years to come. And that's where, I would love to see if they can steal minutes for Magwood, not just for this year, but because it's probably a pretty good investment in the future of this program. And then,
if you can keep him, he's probably your starting point guard next year.
Yeah, and I think finding ways to steal minutes for him, and if he's so lost defensively that he's unplayable in conference play,
I don't think that's the case.
Then
it might be limited, but I don't think he's unplayable.
Right.
Yeah,
and so I would hope that
which I think you saw, if he was unplayable, he would have started on Saturday.
Right. And if he was unplayable, then he would join a list of a couple other guards that at the moment don't seem like options, which is something else that I would hope can, and it's, part of it, I guess, is on the coaching staff.
Sure.
Making continuing to make that decision. Obviously, a lot of it's on the players right? To show the coaching staff that they can be relied on.
You've got several guys at Auburn this season that are here to show that they can be better on defense. And so, all right, go out there and show it. All right, Texas A&M comes in on Tuesday night to Neville Arena, the opener for Auburn at home in SEC play. A&M coming off of a nice 75-72 win at home against LSU. Here's what we know about Texas A&M, Dan. Buckyball, the former Mountain Brook coach turned Sanford coach, finally got a shot at a big job, and it was Texas A&M. It was kind of a surprise that was the move that he ended up making. But
what was surprising to me, it's not surprising that Bucky got a shot in the major conferences. I think a lot of people thought that, especially with the way that Kansas game ended, right? Like this is a guy who's shown that not only can he build a winner at the mid-major level, he can build a winner that can be on the floor,
and it's a style that people would like. And I think A&M,
and he's a guy that people I think like when they get to know his story.
And I think like A&M, they obviously had success under Buzz Williams, right? But it was also like let's marry the opposite of our ex. Like let's go with somebody completely different.
And what's surprising about that is that it wasn't like they fired Buzz Williams.
No,
like
he went to Maryland.
Buzz Williams decided
Buzz
to
did
move
what
on.
Buzz does, which is after a few years, it's probably time for me to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's the most like European soccer manager, like college basketball coach.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to overstay my welcome.
I respect it. I like it. When you decide.
He's an odd dude.
Yeah, when you decide.
I'm not, and again, I say that, and it's like, I'm not hinting anything at all at anything like bad or nefarious or anything. I have just heard stories that he's just kind of a march to the beat of his own drum kind of guy.
Sure, and I think that to be as
I think the suits were kind of the first showing of that.
Yeah, he's sort of a Leachian sort of,
yes.
And then Mike Leach, by the way, not the ancient medical technique, but I think he's got sort of a quirky.
Yes.
I think that's a generous way to describe Buzz Williams,
which is really interesting that it's at Maryland, but
right. But and so you're right. I think that rather than trying to find another Buzz Williams out there, or even find someone who's really super plugged into Texas basketball, which I think a lot of folks thought they might try to go somewhat local or somewhat regional with the option. Instead, they decide, hey, if it worked at Samford. Imagine what happens if you put A&M resources behind it. And Bucky's gone out and found. I mean, he's got a rotation that's 9 or 10 deep, right? And they're running around shooting and
they are very much like Georgia, but with more threes. They will take more threes and they will hit more threes. They've got some snipers on the squad, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Dan, with Georgia. It's like you can't rely on a ton of help because you don't want those kick-out threes to come. Because if those kick-out threes come, Texas A&M's going to hit them.
They're
37th in the country in three-point shooting, and they're 46th in three-point rate. And fourth in assist rate. They will drive, kick, hit all night long.
There are 6 players on A&M averaging at least 10 minutes a game who are shooting at least 39% from three.
Ruben Dominguez is like... This is absurd what he's doing. We'll talk about him later. But Ruben Dominguez, they go get. He was a pro in Europe. He was in Spain, and he was played in the first division in Spain. Played in the second division. He was the U16 Euro MVP at one point. He is shooting. He
is your kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
Can we just say like he is?
He's 49 of 105 from deep, which is 46.7%. So he's shooting nearly 47% from deep on about, let's see, quick math, about 7 or 8 attempts a game. Like it's wild, absolutely wild. He's knocking it down. He's shooting the leather off the ball, but they got so many guys like that, and they don't have that traditional size in the front court. But they're going to play fast, buckyball, 8th fastest possession length in the country. 23rd in effective field goal percentage. They hit shots from everywhere. It's 2s and 3s. It's layups and 3s over and over and over again. And, Dan, much like Georgia, they play deep on their bench, 6th in bench minutes this year. They're very experienced. And they played a weak non-conference schedule. 336 in the country. Best win in non-con play was Pitt, which is 94th in KenPom. They also beat Florida State like a drum. Lost to SMU in overtime, lost to UCF and Oklahoma State. All those games were decided by double digits. It was the best teams they played this season until they had played LSU, and they get a good win at home against LSU. All right, quick pop quiz here, Dan. Here we go. Talk about a reset of a team. Texas A&M's players were responsible for playing 6,850 minutes last season.
Oh, no.
How many came back?
Ooh.
Remember, the number is 6,850. How many came back?
How many minutes?
How many minutes
came back?
of 6,850 came back?
All right, I'm going to go with, I'm going to say 200 minutes came back.
45 came back.
45 minutes, all right.
Also, by the way, that is
200, by the way, a very low percentage of the number.
Less than a percentage point. Less than 1% of minutes played came back, and less than 0.4% of the 2,537 points that were scored last season by Texas A&M. Only 9 came back. Chris McDermott got 9 points in 45 minutes. He's the only guy back, and that's it. That is it. He did start. He plays sporadically. Everybody else is brand new. And it's a cast of characters you should probably be familiar with, some if you're an Auburn fan. Buzz took several guys to Maryland with him. Pharrell Payne, Solomon Washington, a couple other guys. They had 8 guys. That Texas A&M team last year had 8 dudes that were done playing college basketball.
Senior laden, yeah.
Old team. So
Oklahoma
a lot of guys.
Oklahoma was also really old. There were some older teams.
Yeah. And Auburn was old.
But even outside, like Alabama and Tennessee and Florida and Auburn had national championship aspirations with older teams. You had some sort of sleeper, and A&M's one of them, and Oklahoma was another one where it's like, no, a shocking amount of their minutes went from seniors last year too.
So another team's going to play fast and they're guard oriented, and you got to be able to stop them, because if you give up enough and give up open threes, they will hit them. They will hit them, and they will make life very, very miserable for you if you let them hit them. This season, this Texas A&M team has kind of had to live and die by its offense. Real quick, this season they in all but 2 of their wins, they have shot 35% or better from deep. LSU was the first team they beat this season where they scored less than 80. When they shoot less than 35% from deep, they are 2-3. UCF, Oklahoma State, and SMU, those last 2 teams, worst 3-point shooting games for them. So kind of a live by the 3, die by the 3. It's a buckyball, and they do it. And they play fast. They use a lot of space. They get downhill when they need to. KenPom's got this new thing about their average 2-point distance, so like how close they are to the basket. A&M's is the second closest in college basketball, which means every one of those things are coming at the rim.
Yeah, and Bucky's another, like he's also got his team drilled into.
It's very Nate Oates.
Yeah, it's threes, it's threes and paint.
Yeah,
like those are. That's,
and he's been doing it a long time. Did it at the high school ranks for forever.
Really
took it to Sanford.
Really prioritizes recruiting high percentage free throw shooters.
Yep.
And they're shooting at a really high clip. Not a team that's gonna. I mean, you wonder how many fouls they're gonna draw, but it's a team that's
solid.
And they
pretty good
but they knock them down when they get up there.
Yeah. So just kind of going through the list, we talked about Ruben Dominguez, number 9. Be easy to watch for him. He had 10 threes in a game earlier this year against Manhattan. He's just, you got to be on him all game long. Got to worry about that. Rashawn Agee, Dan, this is his 7th season of college basketball. I don't know how this is possible, but Rashawn Agee has played at USC, Bowling Green, Casper College, and New Mexico State, and now is at Texas A&M. He was an All-MAC player a couple years ago at Bowling Green. Started his college basketball career in 2019. And yet he is still here.
I guess we're not counting the Casper.
I guess because of the JUCO rule.
Yeah,
I don't know what all that's about. He's averaged 16.4 points in his last 7 games.
Well, then the New Mexico State season wouldn't count because it's 2021.
Yep.
So it's the
he's there forever.
There you go. Yeah.
Really good rebounder. Has had 7 games with double-digit rebounds. He's got 6 double-doubles this year, 4th in the league in rebounding. Really, really good player. Marcus Hill he was at NC State, and Bowling Green. And do you know where else he played, Dan? I'm going to double check this one in my notes that I got from our brother here. I just want to make sure I got it all right. So Marcus Hill started his career.
Is he at NC State?
He was at Southern Union.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah. And he led the NJCAA in points scored a few years back. So there you go. Marcus Hill, 6'3" guard, plenty of experience. Not a great three-point shooter. He gets downhill. I believe Stephen Pearl referred to him as a water bug today. It's like you got a ton of three-point shooters, and you got dudes that are hard to handle getting downhill. They're really, really quick. Started the last 8 games for them. Old pal Rylan Griffin.
It's funny you mention that
is on this team.
It's funny you mention that Bucky's got a style similar to Nate Oates, because now you have a player who played for Nate Oates for 2 years. Did not go according to plan at Kansas.
No,
last year.
He started most of his games last season at Kansas, but he's averaging 10.5 so far this year, shooting 40% from deep. He's 3-1 at Auburn, and in the 3 games where he's played more than 10 minutes, he is shooting 12 of 21 from deep.
Yeah.
He has been an Auburn killer. There have been some games in the past where he has been an absolute nightmare. He's also really good at getting steals. He's 4th in the league in steals. Another name you may remember, Pop Isaacs, coming off the bench for them, kind of playing the 6-man guard spot for them. Started his career at Creighton. He was at Texas Tech. Was at Creighton last year, had a season-ending injury that kind of threw everything off for that Creighton team. They had to adapt. Obviously, you ended up seeing them later in the year. 2-year starter at Texas Tech, really experienced guy. Was all Big 12 at one point. Great player. The injuries have kind of robbed him of his kind of like high-end ceiling, but he's another one of those guys that really, really can fill it up. 40% three-point shooter. Josh Holloway, who came with Bucky from Sanford, did not play very well in his last game, but he is a big defensive guy off the bench for them. Jakari Lane from North Alabama, a guy that Auburn fans are very familiar with, and who people wanted to see at Auburn. He is, had 3 seasons at UNA, all-Sun player, played at Lee and Huntsville. Just plays a ton. He's coming off the bench for them. Hadn't been a great start for him, but he's another one of those dudes that does a lot of that speed stuff very, very well. They've got, they got a 6'11" forward that played at Kansas for 4 years, played on a national title team. He's coming off the bench for them. Got another 6'11" forward who was a bench guy at Texas last year in J.B. Vinson. Got a 6'11" guy, Federico, who Auburn recruited at one point.
Lane had a tough game against LSU, but the fact is, like, you look and these guys are, he's working hockey style substitutions in, and like the goal. I think the goal for him, especially at the pace he wants, the goal for Bucky is, unless there's a guy who's absolutely like, okay, we're lost without him, means that much. Rocking. It's going to be 5, it's going to be 10 guys playing between 15 and 25.
Their player, the player on their team, Dominguez, leads their team in minutes played this season, and he's at 58% of the possible minutes. It is constant rotation. So they're going to run. Yeah. They're going to run a gun. That's who they are.
They had 4 reserves against LSU play at least 9 minutes.
It's who they are. It's who they are. They shoot the leather off the ball. They're going to play really, really fast. For Auburn, again, Dan, this is another team that does not have they're going to try to bash you inside, get to the basket, attacking your interior defense that way. They are going to attack your perimeter defense. And for Auburn's guards and their wings, it is put up or shut up. Like it is a very, very important game for them to say.
It's everyone, because they might go 5 out.
Oh, sure,
like
yes,
It's everyone's got to.
Yeah,
be ready.
like we were saying earlier, their best, the guy who's averaging all the double doubles for them, AG, is just 6'8". Like, so they're playing fast. It's 5 out. It's modern, super up tempo. For Auburn, it's just like, you don't want to sit here and just repeat everything that you said from the Georgia game, but you kind of do. Like, can you play one-on-one defense? And can you do a good job of winning the defensive glass? They did in that last game. I thought Auburn did a good job of holding off Georgia because they're sending so many guys to the glass. Guess what Texas A&M's going to do? They're going to send a ton of people to the glass. They're pretty good at offensive rebounding. Against LSU, they had 15 offensive rebounds against LSU. So, like, It's a lot of the same thing you just saw against Georgia. It's a lot of the same thing you just saw against Queens. I would say they're more like Queens in the fact that they are much more comfortable shooting threes than Georgia is.
I thought there were times in the Georgia game, like clearly there were times when the player who needed to be there on defense on the perimeter got there late or didn't come over and there was an open three-point shot.
Right.
I thought there were also times when Auburn did a pretty good job daring Georgia to shoot from very deep.
Mm-hmm.
And
because they're going to take that first shot. So if first good looking shot they're going to take. So if you hold off that initial surge and don't let them get a layup and make them take a longer shot or maybe rush themselves into it, that's where you saw Auburn get some more stops. My thing is here, A&M might not be as comfortable finishing around the rim as Georgia is, not quite as much, but they will take more threes.
There was a three, I forget which one of the Georgia guards hit it, but he's past the end of the coach's box. Like he's over. Like
yeah, SP said he felt like Georgia hit 10 what he calls FU shots, which means you hit it and you say,
yeah,
FU for hitting that. Like how?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like when you need to roll. Like you need.
Sorry, Mom.
You roll the dice needing exactly one of the 6 outcomes, right? Like it's like
bang.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you get there, and that's that's something that if that continues, then I think you really have to worry about. I mean, is it something? It's just is the universe lined up against you in these situations? But no, I think for now, like that we noted before Georgia. Like Georgia, A&M, and Arkansas as a way to start league play is such a test of your perimeter defense because all 3 of those teams fly, and all 3 of those teams are eager to take a three-pointer if you leave somebody open.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Queens was as well, and that was why they were such a good warm-up for the SEC. It's just you got to go back to the stuff you did against Queens that made you successful. Forget the fact that they're Queens. Just what did you do that made you successful against Queens? Go out there and do that. Against A&M. We've talked a lot about Auburn's defense against A&M's offense. That's obviously going to be a huge matchup. Real quick, though, Auburn's offense against A&M's defense. This A&M team's going to gamble. They are 21st in the country in turnover percentage, 33rd in steal percentage. They gamble because if they don't get it, doesn't usually go super well for them. They do rebound solidly. Again, it's competition level may have it, but 199th in effective field goal percentage, 197th in three-point percentage, 190 in two-point percentage. I mean, this is a 347 in assist rate. What that says, Dan, to me is, I haven't watched a ton of A&M this year, but they're going to trap, and they're going to press, and they're going to gamble. They were talking today, Sway was saying A&M will miss a shot and then press you, right? It's like the Gagin pressing, Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp football. Like it's like, hey, we're going change of possession. Well, we're gonna try to instead of getting back, we're gonna try to get you back.
And again, that one feels like, especially if you feel good about what you can go off the bench, at trying to do that with trying to do that when you're rolling 4 or 5 starters out there for the majority of the game.
So Auburn, the key in this one is going to be hold on to the ball, take care of it, play smart with it, and if you work it, good things are going to happen. We said that against Georgia, and Auburn scored 100, right? I'd say it even more in this game because A&M's defense is not as good as Georgia's defense is overall. They don't have the rim protection. They don't block shots as
you can get them out of their rhythm offensively by trying to extend possessions.
Yeah, they will trap. Yeah. They will trap, and they'll get out there, and you go bang, bang, shot.
Yeah,
and I do think Auburn will have some opportunities if they get some long rebounds or if they get some steals of their own because A&M will turn it over at times. 10%. How about this? 10% of A&M's possessions this season on offense end in steals by the other team. 10% of their shots are blocked. So you may have some opportunities to get out and go. And this A&M team does not have traditional rim protection. They don't have traditional size, like positional size across the board. I like this matchup for Auburn's offense against A&M's defense, much like I liked Auburn's matchup against Georgia's defense. Yeah. It's hit your free throws if you get them, but also take care of the ball because it's a double-edged sword. They will gamble. They will risk trapping and doubling and leaving a guy open if they think he can get a turnover, because if it gets a turnover, they're so good at going down the floor, and it's either a layup or a kick out, bang, transition three.
And the way they send that
or a trailer three.
The way they send that double team, or the way they send that trap, from watching Bucky's teams last year, a player like Keshaun Hall has got to keep the ball moving, because I know he likes to, like, he'll catch and read and react and sort of let the defense make the first move. They're going to throw the hellfire at him.
And you saw, again,
and brimstone.
That Queens defense was so bad. But you saw in the Queens game where it was like one of the things that made Auburn so good in that game offensively was, on top of obviously the competition, but you had Keshaun Hall and Todd Pettiford moving the ball really well. A lot of assists for those guys in that game. I think you're going to have to see that in this game, because for a team like A&M, when you know you're going to have to gamble and you know you're going to have to try some more stuff on defense and you're going to sell out to this style, you're going to look at priority 1 and 2 on the floor and say, get the ball out of their hands. And I think in a case of both of those guys, have been a little turnover prone. They are usage heavy guys. They are guys who have, a lot, they dribble a lot. They have the ball in their hands a lot. So they're going to be those priorities. Those guys got to do a good job of head up, making the right passes. I think you're going to have to get some hockey assists in this game. Kick out to a guy to kick out to another guy and get those quick. And if you do that, you pop it around, there are going to be opportunities there. But if you get loose with the ball, go back to that Georgia game, man. The fact that Georgia only had 4 steals is crazy. Like, cut down on those mistakes.
Value those possessions a little bit more,
Value those possessions. And, be willing to be a little bit patient, because they're going to try to pressure you and frustrate you and get you out of your element and then try to score off of that. So I think if you're Auburn, it's be willing to slow the game down and play at times. Be willing to play a half-court game, because I think that half-court game is going to work. Also, if not, you've got bigs like Sway, and then I would count Keshaun Hall in this thing. I think Keyshawn Murphy can do it as well, but those two especially, where you've got some 4s, some 3-4s who are comfortable taking the ball up the floor for you. Like Keshaun Hall, we didn't talk about this, Dan. Keshaun Hall is the primary play initiator at the beginning of the game against Georgia, and then in overtime as well. He's basically playing point guard because he can do that kind of stuff. And I think you're going to have to lean on him to do some of that in this game, and it's not all just shooting for him, but it can't continue to be like he can't get. This is not the team to go locomotive, because they're going to try to rip.
We've wondered, like, if Tahad is, as Tahad sort of point guard instincts develop, the thought that in the half court you can run things through Keshaun Hall, right, and sort of give Keshaun Hall the option of creating for his teammates or creating for himself. And it's, maybe you don't want him bringing the ball up the floor. Maybe you don't want him handling like all the point guard duties. But the thought of running him as a point forward in your half court offense, like, it's an adjustment from what you've done in the past. Although there were times when you ran the half court offense through Janai Byrum last year. Like, there were some times when you were okay, like, getting it inside and really.
Oh yeah, no, it was their best offense.
Yeah, starting the action once you got that high post touch or that paint touch. And I think with Keshaun Hall, there's some of that, but a lot of it hinges on him making the right decision, right? And he's
at his best, he's making those good decisions.
Yeah, and so how often do you want to run the let Keshaun Hall make the decision play, and how much do you want to run something where it's sort of the decision is made for him, and you run some action to get him open and let him take his shot.
And that's where it goes back to, like, they didn't have Tahad in overtime against Georgia, and it hurt them because they were down an extra ball handler in that last possession where there's turnover. I think that stands out. But again, it goes back to, like, don't get in foul trouble, because if Texas A&M gets in foul trouble, they'll just point to somebody off the bench. If Auburn gets in foul trouble, it's like, oh shoot, where are we going to go? And that, again, we can sit and talk and debate, and people and fans can moan and groan about the roster construction, but it is what it is at this point. You got to make do with what you got. This is not as deep of a team or big of a team as you had in the past. Okay, there's still 17 regular season games left. There's still a postseason to play. You gotta make the most of it.
And with Simon and I guess to an extent Bashir, it's like, whatever happens over the next 2 months, or if anything, I do sort of stand by what I said earlier, where it's like with Magwood, stealing him as many minutes as you can, has a couple of benefits, and I think one of them is that it's not just about winning games this season.
I like what I see out of him in spurts.
I do too.
I continue to be impressed with him. So we will see how that will go down on Tuesday night. We will have the observations from that on Wednesday morning for all of you.
Late night, not as late as the Queens.
Not as late as that one, but it'll be later
still
night.
Still going.
Should be good. Jersey night. I'm looking forward to that. I got a new Acuna jersey that I'm going to be able to rock out on press row. Always look forward to this night of the year. Be interested to see students back in town. Full. I mean, really, the only other time we've seen it this year was the NC State game, where it was like, okay, this is a legit home game in Neville Arena.
Oh, you get if MK's going, get her to wear the T-Zac, the T-Zac jersey.
I don't think she's gonna be going. We don't. I don't have the ticket hookup that I used to anymore, or she doesn't. I didn't have the hookup. It was her. But yeah, this will be. I think this will be a fun game, and it's a test. It's all right. Here's what just happened. What can you do to fix it? I don't expect Auburn to become shut down defense just overnight, but like a lot of the things that ailed them and a lot of the correctable things that ailed them against Georgia are going to be put right back to the test against Texas A&M, and that's at this point when I'm looking at a team that's like probably not going to be a title contender this year in the SEC, I don't think needs to make the NCAA tournament, could return several of these guys next season. You're building and you're growing. I know it's not as fun. It's nowhere near as fun as winning championships, and Auburn fans have gotten used to that over the years. But like, this is a good opportunity for you to be got to embrace it. You got to embrace the challenge.
And I want to see, what the home atmosphere is like.
Yeah,
too. Right. I mean, this is conference basketball, and last year's team. Look, the team. It always helps, right? But last year's team, would deep fry folks at Neville Arena. Like there were a couple of those games where it was over before you were done with your pretzel, right? So I mean, it's like for this team when it's it's tighter as far as where they are relative to the rest of the conference. It's more uncertain. They're going to need they're going to need the faithful. Like they're going to need the sickos to turn out in full force and help influence what very well could be a lot of close games at Neville Arena, where you need where every possession matters, and you need that help.
I went back again. That team from 3 years ago, right? Where again, I think this is the offense over defense version of that team.
This is Janai's first year.
Year. It's the year right after Jabari and Walker.
You have Wendell and Zepp, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
that's the team that. There's a close win over Ole Miss at home. There's obviously that season ender against Tennessee. That was such a tight game, regular season ender. They beat Arkansas at home that year, a really good Arkansas team at home that year. They beat Mississippi State. That was a dogfight at home. Like, you're probably going to see a lot of that kind of stuff this year from this team, so buckle on up. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back later this week to talk whatever's going on in football and whatever We'll talk the A&M basketball game. We will preview Auburn, Arkansas over the weekend. Also want to give one quick shout-out before we go, because you may be hearing from him a little bit more in the near future. But shout-out to our friend Justin Lee for launching the Auburn Torch. I wrote about it, and he put out his first column. Basically, Lee has started his own outlet on Substack, so if you subscribe to us, it's super easy. It's like a couple of clicks, and you can subscribe to what he's got going on. He's going to cover the Olympic sports at Auburn, basically everything outside of the big three, which is football, men's basketball, and baseball. Those all get covered pretty thoroughly. And there's some other sports at Auburn that get covered, so I think a softball, women's basketball as well. But gymnastics, volleyball, tennis already up, swimming, track, golf, a lot of that stuff. And then, just the rest of Auburn sports coverage you can find there. Because he's a maniac, he put like 5 stories out on the opening day. He's got a video series he's going to do with it, a video podcast I think is a really, really cool idea. On top of that, he is going to be writing columns that he used to do for the OA News. Those are going to now, for football, men's basketball, his columns are going to now live on the Observer.
Ooh. So
that's going to be part of your subscription if you subscribe to the Observer. $6 a month or $60 a year. The Torch $4 a month if you subscribe with their annual deal. It's $5, I think, if you do it monthly, because that's like Substack's minimum that they can let you do it. So, yeah. So here's
among Justin's credits, the fact that he was the first guest in PPE history. We had him on.
And we're gonna try to have him on very, very soon to talk, because like gymnastics starts this week. We're gonna have him on very soon to talk more about the torch. And he'll be popping on more regularly because he's a contributor. He's an official observer contributor now.
There is a Winter Olympics coming up, but I don't think Auburn has much influence
No, not really.
So when we talk about the Olympic sports, we're not necessarily talking about what's going to be going on in. I want to say it's in Italy.
I think it's back in Torino, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Milan?
I think they're doing a Winter Olympics in Italy in a couple of weeks. So. I do like the Winter Olympics when it like becomes more of like the X Games, just with like the Olympic sheen on it. Okay, yeah.
Like I really enjoyed the skateboarding at the Olympics.
Yeah,
it's fun. So very similar to that, like the snowboarding at the Olympics. That's always been fun to me.
There do seem to be some incredibly dangerous Winter Olympic sports.
Oh,
right,
absolutely.
Like some
like
of those,
all of them,
like ski jumps and things. When you're
yeah.
The Super G. And it's tough. It's like, oh, okay.
How about like winter biathlon?
Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah, that is insane behavior.
Madness. Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, Dan, we'll have Leon more often here on the podcast side.
Good.
And got columns as well. So here's the quick pitch though. If you want all of the coverage on the Substack side from your two favorite Justins who have independent publications at Auburn, we're the only two. You've got a yearly subscription to the Observer and a yearly subscription to the Torch. Combine those, that's less than $10 a month, and you'll get everything. You'll get football, men's basketball here. You got all the rest with Lee, all the other sports as well. I mean, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a really fun trip, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with him and help him build that up. Really fun. He's got some really fun stuff in the works, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, because, we talk about it a lot. Like, I'm just one guy, and when on the writing side, it's so tough just to even just cover these two sports all the way through.
And I'm no help at all in that front,
on the writing side.
On that front, no.
No, but like to cover all that in depth, especially on like a newsletter format. It's gonna be, it's tough. So, but he's the type of guy that is like, his belief is that Auburn fans care about more than just football, men's basketball, which is true. And those athletes, those coaches, those families, those teams, those sports, there's a lot of untapped potential there in writing and talking about them. And I 100% agree. And so looking forward to it. I learned a lot. That's the thing, is like you read, I will guarantee you this, if you read a Torch, you're going to learn something you had no idea about. And again, if you find a little bit more appreciation for a sport after it, learn more, who knows? That's how you become a crazy person about, like, Auburn gymnastics or, Auburn golf. Man, Auburn golf's gonna be so good, both on the men's and women's side.
I was going to say between men's and women's golf, with the reigning champions, with the on the
women's tennis has got some pieces of really like legit, like top tier athletes.
Yeah, and our pal Riley is the media contact for women's tennis. He'll tell you. I mean, DJ Bennett is one of the best women's tennis players in all of college tennis.
Auburn has the best amateur men's golfer on the planet right now. So like,
there are several sports where several Olympic
hundreds
sports,
of thousands who do that. So.
Several Olympic sports where Auburn has one of the absolute best in all of college athletics currently on the team that you maybe don't hear about a lot because football and men's basketball and baseball take up so much of the bandwidth. So yeah, really happy that Jay Lee is stepping in and covering those sports the way they deserve to be covered. And yeah, by all means, check out the outstanding work he's going to do at the Torch.